Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing Alchemy, Duskmourn, House of Horror, Brawl Commander's Review. So we got the release of the spoilers of the new Alchemy set a few days ago. I've been busy, so I wasn't being able to get it there earlier, but here we are. There's only 2 new commanders, so we're gonna go through them real quick. We're gonna see how I feel about them, how personally build them. Obviously there's other ways, so I'll give up a few suggestions, and then since there's only 2, I thought I would also do a little segment on a couple cards that I'm excited from the new set that I think will be very interesting to play as part of the 99, not as a commander, because there's only 2. So let's get started. First of all, we have Effie, the Fast Learner, 3/3 human survivor for 3 mana, Celestia, with Enlist. It has Survive. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, you put a +1/+1 count on each tapped creature you control. Then you seek a Survivor card with mana value less than or equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. First things first, Survivors, which is obviously something we care about. There's not that many Survivors just yet. I put out the 2 better ones. So we have Rip Spawn Hunter, we have Kona. So these are kind of like the best 2 Survivors, and they're only 4 mana, so it's not difficult to get the... Well, you're gonna get one of the survivors since you don't get to choose, but like the better ones are 4 mana. Since you only get survivor cards, you should only play the good ones. So you're always gonna get good survivors. In the same vein, you can also play some changelings with interesting effects, so that matter for your deck. Obviously, I put Master Vendor as an example, but there's the one that lets you choose a creature type and play creature of the chosen type from the top of your deck. That one could be interesting as well if you kind of go, maybe you lean into the human part of the card instead of the survivor and have only a couple of survivors. It's an option. And then how are we tapping Effie? Obviously attacking is a way, but obviously the best way is vehicles, because you can crew it with as many creatures as you want. And Effie want as many tapped creatures as possible, because they want to put a +1/+1 counter on each tapped creature. So with, for example, Esca's Chariot makes 2 tokens. You tap the 2 tokens, you tap Effie. You can even tap the Chariot itself. You can crew the vehicle with itself if it meets the requirement. You're getting 4 +1/+1 counters on 4 different creatures, 1 +1/+1 count on each creature. And you're searching for a 4-drop or lower survivor. And if we're talking only having like Rip and Kona, maybe a couple more, you're getting a good card as well out of the deal, so that seems pretty freaking strong. Imagine you have like an Elvish Mystic. You played it on turn 1, you played Effie on turn 2, you played Chariot on turn 3, you're actually getting +5 counters and a 5 CMC or less survivor. So pretty good effect. Obviously, Smuggler's Cup is another option. There's a few more vehicles. Another way to tap your creature, Script to the right, gives you another way that's not attacking and it's not crewing, but rather than adding mana. Which is obviously good if you're playing the likes of Kona. Since you're going to be playing some big stuff, you kind of want to get down with Kona. This gives you extra mana as well. Only issue is your creatures don't have haste, so they can't be tapped the turn they come into play, whereas with vehicles it doesn't matter if your creature has Summoning Sickness. And then finally, I guess we're playing a go wide strategy. You can play tokens, since you're putting counters on all your tapped creatures and you're attacking early. Maybe you have Anthem effects. Trostani fits 2 sides of that, has an Anthem effect and creates tokens. And in the same sense of putting counters, the other thing we can play with Effie, Burke is a suggestion. It's kind of like a general example of like whenever creature you control with a counter on it attacks, you double the amount of counters. Where there's other effects, creature of counter get lifelink, or creature of counters get trample, or get flying, or we have Agatha's Soul Cauldron if you happen to have some activated abilities. So now all your creatures of counters will have said activated abilities. So we're playing on like a lot of axes here. We're playing on the getting our creatures tapped axis, which is probably going to be on vehicles. We're playing with a small survivor sub theme, mostly because there are not that many survivors and only a small fraction of them are good. And then we are running either both or just one of the tokens or +1/+1 counters strategy. I think you can do both, but you can also just focus on one of the 2 and go deeper into it. Either way, I think Effie is going to be an interesting deck, and I'm definitely going to build her, since I hopefully have most of the cards for Effie, I hope. Anyways, I'll probably build a deck list very, very soon, and hopefully next week, not going to make any promises, but I'm hoping next week I can record Effie. If you guys are lucky and I got the time, maybe this weekend if I can get all the cards. But anyways, that's Effie. And up next we have Ephraimic, Imagine Fiend. I want to say this from the get-go. I do not think it's good enough as a commander, but since there were only 2 legendary creatures in this release, on the spirit of the video, I decided to give some suggestions, but I do not think it's good enough, and you probably should not be playing this as your commander unless it tickles your pickle to do it, you know, like I can't see another reason why you would play this guy as your commander. Part of the 99, probably fine. As your commander, it's a 4 mana 5/5. That's fine. There's no what's it called, like abilities like double strike or haste or vigilance. It's just a 4 mana 5/5. When it comes into play, if you control no other creatures, you manifest Dread. So you can get 7 power and 7 toughness for 4 mana. That's really, really strong. Never mind, it's actually 8 power and 8 toughness because other creatures you control get +1/+1. Issue is, as long as you control another creature, it can't attack or block. So we have an Anthem effect commander that can't attack or block if we have other creatures. So these 2 lines of text, they fight each other, and that kind of like, and it just doesn't add enough. We're also monocolored, so we're kind of like very restrained. So I don't think it's that powerful, but nevertheless, let's see what we could do. One thing we can do, we can blink our creatures, or what's the other word? We can phase our creatures out, like the blink dog, so that the Ephraimics, for example, I attack on my turn with the blink dog. I hit them for 4 damage, however, well, for 4 damage because of the Anthem effect. For example, on that turn, opponent attacks, thinks I can't block, I blink, I phase out my dog. That means I can block with Ephraimic, so it's a surprise blocker. Interesting idea. Don't think that's super powerful. Other way to build it is you play a creatureless deck. You just with Ephraimic as your, like a mono white creatureless deck with Ephraimic, and you do like Ashnod's Altar, so you get a Dread, but you can sack the Dread to the altar, get a couple mana, and then use that mana to cast something. You can basically, you're getting the Dread, the 2/2 creature, as a way to pay for other effects. So Duskmourn Reliquary, Ashnod's Altar, we have the one that mills the opponents, we have Angelic Purge, so there's effects we can sack the creature, so not only would be paying the cost of the card we're casting, but also allowing our commander to attack. Is that good enough? Don't know. Then we also have Ugin. I guess we can do, like, if you want to play a gimmicky morph Dread, kind of like face down card pile. I guess you could. Again, doesn't seem that interesting, doesn't seem that powerful either. Other option is to just play like a tokens deck, where your commander is always going to be an Anthem effect. So you don't see your commander as a 4 mana 5/5, you see your commander as a 4 mana make all my creatures bigger, like an enchantment, like just like an enchantment effect that just gives +1/+1 to all my creatures. So you could go mono white tokens with that, but I think there will probably be better commanders for that. And then the last option is to play creatures that usually have like an additional cost, or like a bad ETB. For like if Flage, it's not Flage, there's a I can't remember her name now, but there's a black card that when it comes into play, you lose the game. So this, by having it come to play face down and flipping it, you wouldn't lose the game. So that's a way to play around it. So here we have like the Masticore has an additional cost of discarding a card. If it comes into play with Dread and you flip it, you don't have to play the additional cost. Same with the Guardian of the Great Door. Again, are any of these ways of building this deck good? No. If you play any well-built, or moderately well-built, or moderately competitive deck, it just flushes you away. So I would play it in the 99. I wouldn't be keen on playing this guy as my commander. And just as I mentioned earlier, like a couple cards that I'm excited about from the new set. We have Lurk in the Deep, which is, well, for 4 mana you get a Impeding 4 enchantment, so it comes into play. You seek a non-land card. It's going to be an enchantment for the first 4 turns. You're playing 4 mana as opposed to the 6 mana. Comes into play 6 non-land card. Then whenever you seek a non-land card, so not only with the Lurk itself, but with other abilities that seek non-land card, that seek cards. During your turn, you conjure a duplicate of those cards into your hand, and you manifest it. So if you conjure like a creature, you get to put it into play, and then flip it later, and you have an extra copy of it in your hand. If you conjure like an enchantment, at least you're gonna have one in your hand, and you get a free 2/2. So for 4 mana, you draw a card and get a 2/2, and then a bit later you get this into a creature. I think that's a cool ability, and I'm excited about it. Also mainly because this triggers alone, it's not attached to the other abilities, so you can have other sick abilities and just go a bit deeper on the... I kind of want to build like a 5-color Alchemy cards commander deck, so maybe this will be very interesting. That's for the future. Chittering Illuminator. The bottom ability, as long as the top card of your library is a creature card, you can look at it and cast it. It's obviously a very powerful thing, but we had similar effects in the past. But I think I'm more interested in this first line of text, just because it's a really cool ability that they're adding to Alchemy. As long as it's the top card of your library, you may look at it and you cast it. Like, this could never be replicated into paper, because you don't know what's coming. Oh, it's my upkeep. Oh, I drew a card. Now I can set top card on my deck. It's Chittering Illuminator. So I think that's an interesting design space. So that's mostly why I'm highlighting it. The second part is obviously very strong, but we have other cards with the same effect. But I'm mostly more interested in the design space they're going into. And then lastly, Fear of Ridicule, 3 mana, 3/3. Other enchantment creature control have mana, so it has mana itself. And whenever one or more enchantment creature control deal combat damage to a player, exile random creature card from the player's library, and you create a copy of that card, except a 1/1 enchantment creature. Not only are we like kind of heisting the deck, getting a creature from the deck, removing a card from the deck that they can't get it later, we're getting a creature as well for that, and we get the ETB. A lot of people on Brawl love ETB effects, which you should. ETB is great. So we're just getting a bunch of random effects. And I think it also adds a way to play enchantment, like a creature enchantment deck, which I think is not as common as just your average enchantment deck. You can try to go a bit more aggro on creature enchantment. So I'm excited about it as well. But yeah, there's a few other cards that are exciting, but these are the 3 I wanted to highlight, as well as the 2 commanders. So excited about it. Let me know what your thought on the new cards are, which one you're most excited about, and I'll see you guys next time. Adios.